guys, so for this step we're going to be using 16 cups of water, so I just need 2 more cups. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to bring that to the stove. Am I too weak? Yes, no, I'm fine. One-handed, let's go. Alright, so we're going to bring that to the stove. And we do not want it to boil it. We just want it to be kind of heated up so it breaks down our cocoa coir a little bit easier. So this is kind of like a Damien's 50-50, but we're going to pasteurize it afterwards. But we don't want to sterilize it, so I don't want the temperature to reach too high. So we're getting this on our stove to, let's go at like a medium. And we want it to just kind of be warm, like I said. So you'll see in the following steps. Okay, so while that water is heating up a little bit, we're just gonna get our ingredients ready. So this is a like I said, it's kind of like a Damien 50-50. We're gonna use the same ingredients, except we're not gonna sterilize. We're gonna then pasteurize that. So it's a very simple mix. You just need cocoa coir, vermiculite, and water. You can also experiment with like different recipes and add different things in there. I've definitely done in the past, but we're just gonna do a very simple, easy recipe today, not to complicate things too much. So, and technically, usually with the Damien 50-50, with these ingredients, cocoa coir is very contaminant resistant. So you typically can get away with sterilizing if you're just gonna use that in vermiculite. But if you're gonna add any sterilizing kind of nutrients like manure or anything else, really, you're probably gonna want to pasteurize it. Because sterilizing, you're just killing everything, and then if there's any kind of like bacteria or microbes present, they're gonna be like, "Ooh, this is perfectly fresh and new for me to just enjoy." So they're gonna be competing a lot harder. This is very resistant to contaminants, like I said. But so yeah, so what I want to do with this is just we're gonna pasteurize it, and then this is also a good way for me to test out my spawn, because there's a couple of different things that can go wrong, I guess, when making like monotubs. One of them being your substrate is either not pasteurized properly, or you've sterilized it, or the other factor is most of the time your spawn has not been is not good. So, or it's got contamination and you can't see it because a lot of especially like trichoderma is white, and then until it sporulates, then it starts to show that green color. So sometimes you don't know you have contamination until you do, and then that happens in your tub when you've expanded your cultures. It kind of sucks. So today we're going to be making the substrate, and we're going to make a mini tub just to test out one of my cultures before I decide to multiply it. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to use 1 brick of cocoa coir, which I believe is 680 grams if you don't have a brick of cocoa coir, because I know they sell them in bags like this. And then we are going to be using 8 cups of vermiculite, and we're using 8 cups because I believe that is 2 quarts. Yeah, and then we're just gonna mix that very lightly. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Alright, and I will catch you guys in the next step. Okay, so as you can see, my water is starting to heat up. The bubbles should be ready in a few seconds. Grab this. just gonna try to break this up a little bit, and might put the cover on to let it sit for a little bit, come back to it, let it kind of break it down some more. So here we go.
Okay, welcome to the first time lapse of this video. So I went ahead and just kept on breaking down everything. One trick I found is to kind of drop some of the water that's at the bottom on top of the brick, let it sit for like a second, and then like you can kind of scrape the top. And then I just went in with my hands to finish because I feel like it was the best way to do it.
Okay, so I kind of let the substrate in there for a couple minutes just to let the cocoa kind of like absorb as much as it can, because we want to be at something called field capacity. That's when you squeeze some of the substrate and then just a little bit of water comes out, and you don't want it to be coming out like pouring, and you don't want it to be only like a few drops. So right, a nice little middle point where you, if you squeeze it kind of nice and gently, then it's just gonna just drip it a little bit. So hopefully substrate is like that. And then I've got mason jars. So this is the way we're gonna do it. We're gonna fill up all the mason jars pretty tight, packly. And you can definitely do this with bags as well. I'll make a separate video on how to do this with bags. But essentially it's the same thing. You just, at this step, instead of filling the jars, you would fill bags. But I like this method because then, for the purpose I'm going to be doing, which is like mini like monotubs, it's easier for me to kind of like do my ratio because I've been using mason jars as well for my spawn. So I can do easily like spawns of like 1 to 2, and then it's easy to grab like 2 jars, and visually it's kind of nice for me to plan out how I'm going to be like layering the tubs and everything. So without further ado, let's get to it. So again, we let the substrate, we didn't boil the water, but it was still warm, so that way it's manageable to work with right now. That was the point of that. So, and it broke down a little faster. So I'm just gonna give everything like a quick little mix. Just make sure everything's been nice and broken down. I'm gonna grab some of this and squeeze a little bit. So I feel like it's a little wet still, but it's not the end of the world. I think we're okay. It's not like crazy. But yeah, I've been liking the grow setup. It's been pretty nice, and I don't know, it's been just really fun, and I didn't expect so many of you to watch the last like couple videos, and oh, just really humble. It's kind of cool. So lots more to come, and we're going to be diving into different things now. So we're going to be going into monotubs, that kind of substrate, casing layers, and probably some genetics works, because that's kind of like my favorite, playing with some agar. So yeah, I don't know if I should time lapse this. This is probably going to be like, it's just me filling jars, so let's just time lapse it.
Okay, so yeah, just like I said, I'm just gonna be filling those jars up. I'm gonna pack them, but not too tight, just a little bit. I still want them to have some kind of like breathing room per se. But yeah, so we're gonna fill up all the jars, and then I don't know if I mentioned in the next section, but the next video will be about making a mini tub, and I will show how I'm using these. So stay tuned. I actually already recorded the video. I just have to finish editing it. So I will catch you in that one, and yeah, just keep enjoying, I guess.
Okay, so all our jars have been filled. I kind of patted them down just a little bit. Not like too crazy. They're not like too compact. I still want to, I don't know, just be somewhat loose in there. It makes the like heat easier to get through everything. So yeah, everything's patted down. This made enough for 8 jars, but unfortunately pressure cooker only fits 7 when I pasteurize, but we're gonna do with that, what I'm going to do with the eighth jar is I will actually sterilize it with my grain jars next time I do a pressure cooker run. And then I'll make another tub with that one and the same spawn that I will be making the monotubs with this pasteurized substrate. And then I'll kind of show a difference between pasteurizing or substrate or sterilizing it. I have a feeling it's not going to matter too much, and they're both probably going to do fine, but I do have a feeling that, the pasteurized one is always just safer. And if you want to experiment with different cool stuff, again, pasteurizing is going to be the way to go. Because as you get kind of, I don't know, more intrigued into the process, you'll find that better nutrients give, better fruits. So you can kind of experiment with it. But this will definitely get you going. So I'm going to go ahead and time-lapse everything. We want to use the foils that we usually put on our lids. You can put the O-rings if you want. It's not really necessary. And then we're going to load up our pressure cooker. So I'm going to go ahead and just like time-lapse this, and we'll get everything going.
Okay, so I went ahead, put the foils on, and then I did decide to put the O-rings on. It just makes everything just stay a little tighter. Just nice. I do recommend it. I know I said in the previous section that it doesn't matter too much, but I do enjoy having them on. And I also enjoy having you giving me a subscribe and a like. Just kidding though, but it does help out a lot. So thank you if you do wish to do that.
So we're back. I already put 12 cups of water in my pressure cooker, just because I usually like to pressure cook at about 13 or 14 cups of water for jars. That will get the jars and the water to be about a third to maybe half of the way. So you don't need it any more than that. So just gonna help the jar be a little just more flat. It'd be nicer for us. And I don't know if you can see with this jar right there, it's a little bit less than a third of the way. And then I've got 2 more cups of water here. So once we fill up everything, you'll see it'll kind of rise a little bit. See how it's like rising? It was a little below. It's gonna be right there. And then I'll go ahead and add this. And these last 2 jars should make it go a little more higher. There we go. So water's filled, and then the jars aren't bobbing. So that's kind of why I like to have that water amount. And now this is going to be the jar we're going to run with our spawn. And now the tricky part. So I'm going to go get my thermometer, but we want to stick a thermometer inside one of the jars, and we want to have it kind of like in the middle of the substrate. And what that's going to do is just kind of tell us the temperature of everything inside the jars. And then the way to pasteurize is that we want to keep a certain temperature for a certain period of time. So in this case, we're going to try to reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to need to be between that and 160 for about an hour. So that's going to be the goal. The way we're going to do that today is we will start our stove on a medium or so. We're also going to note the temperature of our substrate prior to starting everything. And then once it heats up about 15 to 20 degrees, it should be at around 140. We're going to turn our stove off, and we're going to let the temperature keep on rising. It should get to about 160, and we're going to let that's once it hits 140 Fahrenheit, that's when we want to stop the stove and we want to start our timer for an hour, and we're going to gradually let it increase to 160. Do not let it go over 160 or 165 pretty much. If it stays there too long, then you're going to be starting to get into pasteurization temperatures. So very, very important. That's going to be the most crucial step, is to be watching once you turn that stove off, that your temperature doesn't reach too high, and then that it maintains between 140 to 160 for an hour. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so as you can see, water is starting to boil. We are at about 100. So just need to let it get to 140. Okay, so everything's boiling and we have reached 140. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my stove and start my timer for 1 hour. Okay, so as you can see, it's been about 30 minutes and we hit 160, almost 165. So I just went ahead and removed it from the stove completely. And I'm hoping it stays there for another 30 minutes.
And then we're just gonna let those cool, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Psych-E out.